This is Energize Radio. Your direct introduction to amazing radio people who do what you do and win. Advice, ideas, strategies to help you help your clients and grow your career.
Energize Radio.
Let's get energized. Here's John Cole.
Welcome to another episode of Energize Radio, conversations with sellers, people just like you who are out there doing the same thing as you, representing radio, working hard in the streets, working hard in the communities, and most importantly, trying to help our clients succeed every day in their business. We're joined today from Telemedia Broadcasting in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Beth Vickers is with us. Beth, welcome.
Thank you, John. I'm glad to be here.
So we've been talking about a lot of different things in all these different podcast/video series we've been doing. And I know that one area we haven't touched on so far is how things have changed in radio sales. I know back in the day when I started, I used to have a big, thick day planner, and I would write all my things in it. And I'd use, my own sheets of graph paper to track things. And then computers came along and we changed things. And today we have phones and apps and smartphones and all that stuff. So I'm curious what resources or technology you like to use or have your reps use to help them plan their week. Because for a lot of reps, both new and experienced, there's been this big shift and there's all these things available. Do you have any favorites?
I think everybody is turning now to some type of client resource management, a CRM program. And those are actually really beneficial. So depending on the company that you work for, your CRM program may vary, but they're connected to everything that you have, your phone, your laptop, your computer. You can basically look up clients, you can look up information, you can look up weekly schedule, you can look up your pacing, you can look up billing. It's all right there. Where's my phone? Within an app on your phone, super easy to do. However, I will say this, John, there's a lot of technology out there, and sometimes technology for people is not the way that they want to manage their day. Some people still like the old day timers or the calendars. And really, when it comes to managing your time or using your resources, whether it's new technology or old technology, it needs to fit your style or the account seller style. I have witnessed over the years, corporate radio will come in and they'll say, okay, we have this particular CRM program. I want you to log all your clients. I want you to log all your information, which is great because it's hubbed under one umbrella. But as far as organizing your day, well, everybody's a little bit different. So, some people gravitate to the new technology and they want that, but other people, they still like those big old daytime planners that you used to carry around.
I'm a big fan of a yellow legal pad.
Right.
And I break it into three. Here's the important stuff I need to do. Here's the stuff I want to plan for tomorrow. And here's some other stuff. If I have time, I'll get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. I think managers today understand that not one shoe fits every single person, right? I mean, people they organize themselves differently. I've had really successful AEs, that are senior AEs, and they still have to depend on, something that's old fashioned, the legal pad, stickies up on the wall, but their sense of chaos is their sense of organization. But the CRM programs today, for the most part, especially sitting from a manager's perspective, is a great hub to get all of that information that you need to really kickstart your day, know where your people are going to be, know what you're looking at as far as your billing, your pacing, and that sets the tone for the week.
I know some people have like little apps and things on their phones too. And one that I've found is super helpful and we use in our company a lot is called Voice Record Pro. And it just gives you the ability to record so many things, whether it's clients or cut-ins and send them back to the station. Do you have any of those little apps on your phone of anything that's like one of your favorite gems?
It's so funny that you say that. Actually, I don't. I have the memo on my phone that I can just hit record and I can do my memos that way and I can listen back to my memos. For me, that's a great, easy thing for me to do. I'm so busy most of the time. that just to pick up the phone and hit my little record on my memo app is perfect. It doesn't have a fancy name. It comes on my iPhone.
Well, certainly there's lots out there. Let's move to talking to our customers, because I know you're in a leadership position with your group of radio stations. And if you're like most leaders, that means at some point in your career, you were out there pounding the pavement, just like our regular AEs are every single day. When you're talking to customers, do you customize all your questions to those customers, or do you have a few favorites that you go to that are worth asking every customer?
Well, I think that you customize based on your client, where you're walking into, because again, not every client is the same. So if you go in with the same standard sheet of questions, right, you're going to get pretty much either basic answers, or you're going to not really fit the business in your CNA process. And that's really, really key. I think, I always like to start off asking people why they started the business that they started. If it's a locally owned business, why did you get into this business? Tell me about that. Then you folding into marketing objectives. What are your marketing objectives for the year? What's the direction you're taking with your business? And of course, right now, how is COVID affecting your business? That's a huge one, because there are businesses right out, now today that are dealing with recruitment issues. So they're busier than ever. A lot of your home improvement companies are much more busy since COVID hit. And so their number one objective is recruitment. So really, when you go into a business, you got to know what business you're walking into. And then you have to create that, circle of questions around that type of business that you're walking into, and do some research before you walk in. I mean, that's really key. I think it's one of the mistakes I see a lot of time with new sellers. They don't know what they're walking into. And so they'll start talking radio, they'll start selling radio right away. And then they're like, whoa, no, wait, whoa. No, radio doesn't work. I mean, how many times do we hear that? Mm-hmm. And so they lose the whole moment with that client, and to get back in with that client is going to be even more challenging. So when you talk about questions in CNAs, it is really important to do research. I think absolutely customize those questions. Ask them why they got into the business that they got into, because it's going to tell you a lot. People like to talk about themselves. So when you talk about a go-to, I would definitely say that. And then always a topic that's the topic of today. So COVID, right? Nobody can get away from it. Either your businesses right now are struggling, or in the case of like a home improvement, they may be skyrocketing, but they can't keep people. So now you know where the need is.
It's interesting because I think back to those CNA questions we used to ask all those years ago. and a lot of them now, and I think sometimes reps forget this, a lot of the questions that are on a traditional CNA, which are great questions, you can actually get answers before you even see the customer. You can get it from their Facebook page, their website, Yelp reviews, etc. And I think your point is a very good one, which is you have to be prepared to ask business questions. Yes. Their dream, why did they get into it? How are they dealing with COVID? Because a lot of reps, I think sometimes, and maybe it's just in my neck of the world, they're a little bit reluctant to ask hardcore business questions, because sometimes they don't think it's their business, yet it is. We're business people. We're in the business of helping them, and we got to have the courage to ask them the tough questions, like how is business right now? And a lot of reps, they hate to ask that question because they're afraid that their client might tell them. And you actually want to know the answer. And it's amazing to me, because I've noticed in the last couple of weeks in talking to clients, how many reps or clients, when I talk to them, they start telling me about how great business is.
Right.
And they'll say, yeah, it was pretty crappy for a short period of time there, but it's been great the last little while. In fact, I talked to a lady, she owns like a hunting store / gas bar type deal. And she said, we've doubled our business and we didn't expect that. And that's caused an interesting problem for them because they didn't expect that. They weren't used to working in that environment. So I think unless you're asking those questions, as you stated, where you're talking about their dreams and how they're operating and what's happening now, the generic CNA questions are important, but try and get those answered before you go in.
Well, and in today's world, you don't want to be cookie cutter. You can't be. If you go in and you're a cookie cutter sales rep, they're going to boot you out. You know, they're not going to give you that opportunity. And you have to be that book of knowledge, John, just like what you said. You have to be that book of knowledge. You have to do your research. And if you walk in knowledgeable, you can ask intelligent questions based on a conversation, you know, not based on a sheet of paper that lists some very generic questions.
I know in our company we have a phrase we use quite frequently. It's from the book by Jim Collins, Good to Great, which is what are the brutal facts? And when I talk about reps, I think we can be honest. I've been in this business long enough that there are some brutal facts about sales executives in radio and the mistakes that we see, and maybe hand up guilty, I've done myself. And if we don't confront those mistakes that we see reps making or making ourselves, we can't get better. So when you look at your team or teams you've worked with, or even the competition, what are some of the big mistakes or things you know people are doing wrong that if they just tilted a little bit, they'd be more successful, that you see? And I want to ask you, like, because there is a difference between junior reps and senior reps.
Very much.
And I know a lot of senior reps do a lot of great things. That doesn't mean they're still not can't sharpen their tools or their knives and get better. What are the mistakes you see usually with junior reps? We'll start there.
Well, I think the biggest mistake with junior reps today is, and this is going to sound like an oxymoron, they're selling versus learning. Okay. Mm-hmm. They're selling versus learning. They're going out and they're saying, hey, I work for XYZ radio station. We have a great product. We'd really like to get you on the air. I have this package I'd like to sell you. Here's, 50, 30-second spots for, $5,000 Monday through Sunday. I'm giving you 50% off and I'll throw in some bonuses, right? They're so eager to get out there and try to close that sale that they're, for lack of a better way of it, vomiting the product right onto the customer. Senior sellers, people that are super successful in this business, never stop learning. I love this podcast for this very reason, because our business is changing and morphing every minute, every second. And not only is our business changing, but the businesses that we are servicing are changing. And senior reps are constantly learning, whether, again, it's going to somebody's website, industry, magazines. They're doing their research. They're getting involved with groups, community groups. They're signing up for Facebook pages that are, have their client involved. They're joining boards in the community. They're integrating themselves into that client's, life. I mean, what they do, what their business does, and they become the expert. So, I mean, if you really look at senior reps and you were to kind of sit down with them and talk about all these things, you would find that they know more about their clients' kids, their how their client got started, how many years they've been in business, where they go to dinner. They know all of these little things, whether it's, the intimate things they do as a family or whether it's the big picture things they do as a business. They know it all, and they have become a part of that business, right? And it's very difficult when you have a senior person leave that's so integrated and you have to replace them because those relationships have been built. And that's really where it comes down to. I think we're so inundated with so many different types of advertising today. And if you're in a small market or sandwiched in between two large markets like Fredericksburg is, so we have Washington, D.C. and we have Richmond, Virginia. So we got our nation's capital and our state capital. We're right smack in the middle. So we have big radio stations that play into our market, right? But we're in this hometown that has military that's advanced. It has all these different types of individuals that leave here, transient, people that have been here forever, lots of history. And you have got to be the person that understands the community and all of that. And if you do that, if you really embed yourself into a client's business, into your community, and you never stop learning, right, and understand what's going on in the world, you'll be successful. If you come in as a new seller and you're so eager, and which is good, we love the passion, we love the drive, but you don't want to take time to really learn and do your research before you go on these appointments. And sometimes today it'll take longer to get that sale, but that work will pay off in the long run. And I think that's the challenge. It's always been the challenge with new sellers, is just wanting to close it quick, close it quick, close it quick, and then there was the day, oh, how many calls do you make before you get, a buy? You got to do so many calls, and all of that kind of plays in, but there's a lot more competition out there for those ad dollars. So the way you're going to get that is through building trust, having knowledge, and being that consultant that your client comes to. So if they have an issue with their media, I have reps that will actually, talk to their clients about other radio stations, and not necessarily in a bad way, other forms of media. What do you think about digital? How do I go about this? You have to be educated.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, especially for junior sellers, because our industry is changing. And I think in a lot of cases, especially people that are watching Energize Radio, they're working for owners that are in the building or they see frequently. And I think that's such a huge advantage for us right now, because the Googles of the world and the Facebooks of the world, they're faceless. They're only taking, they're not giving back. And we work in such a great environment that our companies and our radio stations, we're taking money from the community in ad dollars for sure, but we give back a ton, in airtime and being part of things. And our jobs of our sellers is to understand that they also have to sort of brand themselves as the expert in the community, not only for radio, but actually in the community, and tie all the great things that are going on together. And that's not only what makes our radio stations great, it's what makes a junior seller become a very successful senior seller down the road. When we talk about senior sellers, what are some of the mistakes you see, maybe some of the more veteran staff make on a regular basis?
Not learning. And this is where it's kind of like an oxymoron, right? So what can happen is you grow up in a generation, you and I are probably similar in how we learned radio and how we digested it. But if we didn't morph with the times, if we didn't grow with the times, if you don't start learning where the ad dollars are being spent and how people are absorbing media, you can't successfully sell your product. Somebody else will come in and gobble it up. So during the pandemic, a lot of dollars were lost for various reasons, but a good portion of those dollars went to the whole digital world. People wanted a way to reach people on their mobile apps and at home, and didn't feel like people were in their cars doing that commute. Remember, I'm in a big commuter community. So if they're not going to work, they're staying at home. And if they're staying at home, they're on their computers, they're working from home in this virtual environment. How are you reaching them? And so, as a senior seller, you can get complacent in your learning and, oh my God, the digital world. I've seen that from some senior sellers in the past, the digital world. It's so dreaded because they think it's a language that they're not comfortable with. And yet it's exactly what we're comfortable with. I always tell sellers, look, don't be afraid of the big D word. It's exactly what you've been doing. It's exactly what you've been selling, right? It's impressions. It's a way for people to deliver a message to, their demographic. And if you don't embrace it and understand it when clients bring up those objectives, you're not going to be the consultant that you need to be. And so don't get complacent, continue to learn, and you'll continue your success.
Look, I think that's great advice, because there are many, and again, there are times where I go, holy Moses, how much more can I learn? Right. And the answer is there is always more to learn, because newspaper is changing, radio is changing, and television's changing. And I like to tell my clients, I'm not the guy that's going to come in here and tell you what doesn't work, because everything works. You can be successful on Facebook. You can be successful on billboards or newspaper or the radio stations across the street. I'm here to tell you it all works. And I'm a guy that can make it work, because it all works and it all doesn't work. It can either flush your money down the toilet or it can make you raving success. I'm the guy that's going to help you get to raving success. Whichever of those paths you choose, I'm here to help you. And yeah, it's going to include my radio stations because that's what I believe in. I know it works. It's what I'm here to do. So I think your point about always learning is a good one. One area I think a lot of reps struggle in is commercials. And especially, sometimes older reps get stuck into we need two voices. It needs to talk about this. And the younger reps are like, hey, I want to make commercials that sound like their commercials because that's how commercials sound. And that's not necessarily always the truth. So when it comes to creating a good commercial, something that's going to help the customer, good call to action, good branding messages, where do you like to start with your customers in developing that message?
Wow, that's a good question. And a little hard to answer because, again, I go back to businesses, customers are different, so when you're doing that CNA and you're really learning about the business, you're really learning about how they want their image to be in the marketplace. And image is important. Brand is important. And, I find sometimes one of the bigger mistakes is a client wants to be funny and humorous. They want to come in and cut their own spots. How many times have we heard that? Oh, I want to come in and cut my own spot. And they're horrible. Their voice is horrible. Then they're doing their business an injustice. So really, it's what do they want to have happen? What is when you say call to action, what is that call to action? Okay, so there's a law firm here, Allen and Allen. Honestly, you hear their commercials all the time. They don't change. They have a music bed they use all the time. They come in and they talk about, their ambulance chasers. They come in and they talk about the accident. Okay. Oh my God, the emotion that comes out of that every time I hear it, even though I'm sick of the background music, right? I know it's going to be a sob story. It's their call to action is emotion. They use emotion to drive people to come in and use their services because they're the attorneys that care. And so you can't go anywhere without knowing that. So to me, what they did very effectively is they're chasing those people who have accidents. They're setting that emotion of a little bit of fear, right? Because we're all scared if we get in an accident, what are we going to do? And we're going to be taken advantage of. Some other attorney is going to come in or the insurance company is going to come in and they're going to try to take that money. And they're the attorneys that are going to prevent that and make sure financially you are taken care of. So they use that through emotion. And I love emotion, whether it's happy emotion, more dramatic, excitement. You find that most businesses have some level of emotion, and that emotion needs to meet the demographic of the client, who the client is trying to call, or the client is trying to get in their door, their call to action. So really, really key. The biggest mistakes with commercials are when people, again, want to do something doesn't have anything to do with their business, Oh, I want to be, the crazy farmer and, do this funny voice. And I want to create all this, kind of comedic, relief in my commercial. Well, you're not funny. I mean, that's what you want to say. You're really not funny, John. Okay. So we don't want to go that direction. And those are sometimes hard conversations to have. And sometimes you can't get out of it. So I find that if you can't get out of it, you've got to work the commercial as best you can in the direction that they want to go in. But those conversations have to be had. And again, it's hard for me to answer that question direct, but I do think emotion driven with a call to action of what that business's call to action is. What do they want to get out of that commercial? Are they looking for branding? Are they looking to drive traffic? All of that's really key.
I think great radio commercials are about great stories. And, you mentioned the story about the lawyers and how they put you at the scene of the accident and they tell you that they care. And if you want to find great stories, a great place for a starting quick snapshot is Google reviews or Yelp reviews. You go to your client and you see what other customers that have used them start to share these stories about, hey, they helped me when my mom was sick. Hey, they did this because my car was stuck out in the middle of nowhere. And all of a sudden you go, okay, these are real situations that real people are experiencing with this business. Wouldn't it be great to add the emotion to that story and retell it in an interesting way on the radio? And man, I got to tell you, you package it up, you take it to a customer and they go, wow, that's that's exactly what we do. And sometimes they can't figure that out themselves because they're used to hearing commercials. So they're like, they want to say they have friendly service and they want to say they have the best prices and the best quality, because that's what they've heard their entire life. But when you take them a real story, or again, a version of the real story, man, that's the stuff. And you add in the emotion. That's when radio really works like gas on a fire, for sure.
Yep. Totally agree.
One last question. I know everyone that has been in radio for an extended period of time, they got a little bookshelf with some of their favorite books, or they've signed up for newsletters that people email out, or they follow someone on Twitter that gives gems every single day. Do you have a spot that reps could go right now and either, grab a book or search up a newsletter or watch a YouTube video? Do you have a favorite spot that reps could go right now that would help them sell tomorrow and the next day and the next day?
Adweek. I love Adweek. Are you familiar with Adweek?
Yep.
Okay, so Adweek is one of the best publications out there. I believe it's free these days, because you can just go on the web and get the information. And they're constantly delivering what's going on in the industry, what is hot in the industry, what businesses are popping right now. They have really good creative solutions. Some of them are a little, for radio are a little far stretched, but I always find that when you have sort of off the wall creative ideas that you're reading about, maybe in the automotive industry, whatever, you can come back and create something like that locally. And then they were talking about trends, trends in our industry, whether it's radio, whether it's television, and how agencies are facing that. And advertising agencies today are the hub for a lot of big business, and big business is successful. It's also a great way to use when you're talking to clients as an example of certain things that are going on in the industry and bringing them in on a local level. So I'm a big fan of Adweek. As far as a favorite book, and by the way, there's 1,000 different, you can go on Facebook, right? And you can join, and I would highly recommend that. Go to Facebook and join any of your competitive radio pages, right? Even your big radio stations. I've worked in all different markets. So I follow the things that are going on in Miami with Cox Radio. I follow things that are going on in South Carolina. So you just got to see what's happening, because you can also see who's advertising in these different markets, but also it gives you great ideas and connections, and you'll find networking. There's social media today. You can go on Twitter. Any of those things are good. Find what you're interested in about your industry as far as radio is concerned. Join it. Join some of the ones that your clients are on. I always think that's great, because if you can friend them in LinkedIn or social media, Facebook, Twitter, any of those, you're going to learn more about your clients too. So that's really key. So I would say that. And then I'm going to date myself now. So one of my favorite books of all time, especially for new reps, is Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it goes back to creating those relationships with clients and building those relationships. And there's some stuff in there that's a little old school, the Zig Ziglars of the world, it was all during that era, but they really were groundbreaking in how to relationships sell versus, hey, I'm the car salesman out here, used car sales guy. So they took how we sell, whether it's, used cars or whether it's, advertising, to a whole different level. And I just love that book. I think it has a lot of good takeaways, and it's a fun read. Yeah. It's got some good humor in it as well.
Those are great suggestions. I think many people have their favorite little spots, and we'll be uncovering more as we continue with the series. But Adweek is a good one, and the recommendation to follow other radio stations or competitors close by or far away to get you some ideas. I think that's a great suggestion as well. Telemedia Broadcasting in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Beth, Vickers, we appreciate you spending some time with us today.
It was fun to be in Canada.
Thank you. Every day.
Thank you, John.